Hello and welcome to Pastor's Library. This is the channel where we discuss everything to do with theology books, books that might be on a reading list for your bachelor's or master's degree, books that might be on a pastor's bookshelf or minister's bookshelf. And if you like what you hear, please click the thumbs up on YouTube and click subscribe and click on the bell. And that way you'll be amongst the first to know when we launch another episode of Pastor's Library. So today I want to talk to you about a particular series of theology books. These are the Cambridge New Testament theology books. I'll also mention the Old Testament theology books. And basically these are simple paperbacks that are readily affordable but give you a real insight into the theology of the book, of the author of the book, of the writer of the book. We know that they're all inspired by God, but we're talking about what was the purpose in writing the particular book of our Bibles. And so I discovered these when I was doing my master's degree, and I found them to be an absolute excellent resource. Whatever book of the Bible you're studying at the time, it's affordable to buy one of these, and it will give you a background to the theology of that book, what it says that impacts our belief system. And I would just like to sort of point out a few of them as examples. First of all, we'll start with the top end. Richard Bauckham wrote The Theology of the Book of Revelation. And this book, I cannot praise it enough. It's absolutely brilliant. Richard Bauckham has a very even-handed, very biblically based theology, which he shares with us, which helps us understand where John was coming from when he wrote the Apocalypse. And it's a great book and very affordable. I would suggest anybody that's studying the book of Revelation, you should buy this, because it's 166 pages. It's got a great bibliography, so you've got lots of guidance of other things that might engage with you. It's well written by a good communicator. So, for example, that is one I would definitely recommend. I would also recommend the one on Galatians, which is written by James Dunn. James Dunn has been a massive impact in the early 21st century and late 20th century on our written theology. He famously wrote a book on the baptism in the Holy Spirit, which for an Anglican was a major do. And it still has an impact today. This I found very helpful when studying Galatians. I found reading this through, it gave me a lot of insight into what Dunn sees as the theology of Paul in the book of Galatians. And what we must remember in all of these books is we are looking at what the author sees. And it doesn't necessarily mean the author's always right, but it widens the scope of our thinking. It allows us to see beyond maybe the narrow rail tracks that run in our own mind, and it helps us to widen our thinking so that our theology is much more soundly based. I'm not talking about becoming liberal in our thinking. I'm just talking about it's good to hear what other people's viewpoints are when they're biblically based. The truth is, I would hope that all of us and all of you listening have a biblically based theology. But the truth is, some of our theologies are widely different, and we all claim them to be biblically based. So what I'm saying is, these are a good series to help you get a grasp of what maybe other people think, as well as what your pastor thinks, or the denomination that you were brought up in thinks. There are a number of good books here. The one on Romans by Klaus Hacker, I found that helpful. Again, he has a particular view, but it's a good one. And I think it's also worth saying that Victor Paul Furnish, who I've read some of his other work, which I've found helpful, but he clearly has a personal theology that sort of omits the gifts of the Spirit, because he spends very little time on them in 1 Corinthians. And he sort of glosses over, almost as if, well, gifts of the Spirit, we know about that. And I was a little bit disappointed in that, as someone who comes from a Pentecostal heritage, who operates in the New Church movement today. But it doesn't mean there wasn't value in reading it. As my old pastor's wife used to say, Stephen, eat the meat and spit out the bones. And so I suppose this is one of those volumes where I had a couple of bones to spit out. But I did find overall this was a worthwhile volume. I think the four Gospels are all well worth reading. D. Moody Smith wrote the Gospel of John, and this one is one of those rare ones where I've got it to a point where it's dropping apart, so you can tell that I read this one well. But it's a good read, and like all of these, it's affordable. You can afford to get it on your bookshelf. So the Cambridge New Testament Theology series, absolutely brilliant, covers the whole New Testament. There's a couple of them that are collections of Paul's letters, for example, but you can access all of them now. What's very interesting is in recent years, they've started work on the Old Testament Theology series. Similar bindings, similar colours. These are very similar books. Mobley, who is an excellent theologian, I think of Mobley, I immediately think of Isaiah, because he's done so much work on that book. But Mobley deals with Genesis, an excellent theology. Maybe not quite as up to date as I would like. I mean, this is a 2009 book, which doesn't sound like it's that old. But Mobley doesn't really seem to engage with recent books that talk about the children of Israel being basically Egyptians who needed educating in the things of God. And he sort of leaves that to one side, basically. But it's still, again, a very good book. Overall, it will make you think, it will make you read the scriptures in a new light, and it will encourage you. It is definitely a worthwhile volume. And to the best of my knowledge, there are only 4 Old Testament books out so far. But the other one that's outstanding is Brueggemann's Jeremiah. And Brueggemann, I think, is always worth the read. He is quite Calvinistic in his writings, and that can be a little bit off-putting, as Terence Fretheim told him face to face. But you know, actually, if you can just put those things to one side, he really has a lot to say. And I found this book very refreshing, and it stimulated me to read Jeremiah through again, and which is something I do every year, but it made me read it for a second time that year, and I found it very helpful. So this is a series which you will see expanding in the Old Testament field, and I imagine that they will keep the New Testament one refreshed, but generally speaking, they are all pretty much up to date and are a good resource for any pastor or minister, and definitely helpful for any book that you may be studying as part of a degree process. Very quotable, good books indeed. I hope that helps you. If it has, please give us a thumbs up and click on subscribe and ring the bell, and that way you'll know as soon as we launch our next Pastor's Library. God bless you. Bye.